Yesterday, roughly 80% of total airtime of the non-cable network news was devoted to Donald Trump's presser. Here's more from today.
There has been no mad rush to the microphones today by surrogates to try and defend President Trump, as we've seen after past eyebrow-raising moments.
As a rule, former presidents don't criticize their successors. But after the violence in Charlottesville and President Trump's defense of far-right protesters, former Presidents George and George W. Bush put out a joint statement today. We begin tonight with the backlash against President Trump. Several of the nation's top CEOs from companies you'll know, Campbell Soup, Pepsi, Walmart, bailing on the president's business councils.
Now, I get it. This is red meat that drives the storyline of a racist president. A racist president we all helped elect. All the networks were there. It's weird. As the media pines for unity, they foment friction. Go outside for a minute, though, and everything seems fine. But turn on the TV, race war is coming. By attributing the acts of ghoulish racists to a party or large swaths of America, they steer us away from civility on toward fury. The media has different rules depending on the guy. I remember one network linking the shooting of Stephen Scalise to his voting record. How is that not condemning both sides? And if you point out the past violence of Antifa, of course, that now means you endorse Nazis. I don't know how you get there. Anyway, Americans can handle far more than the media's binary thinking. We know ugliness when we see it. And that tribalism leads to harm. By removing the communicative step between emotion and violence, we're left with fringe maniacs in bike helmets. My dream that the media steps out of its team sport thinking and examines how they increase division. Whether it's white nationalists, black power groups, anarchists, Antifa, or Aryan nations. The appeal of superiority through identity, that's the disease. By linking toxic tribes to large parties, all the media does is help it spread. Instead, let's isolate and quarantine it. Danny, you said you had a good point about this, so I shall go to you.
I was just thinking, well, we have covered it for 3 days straight, too.
Right.
But I also think that for the networks, racism trumps Russia. Okay, so the only thing that was able to get Russia off of...
Or North Korea.
Well, right. Well, I think North Korea was like a legitimate crisis. That's Russia is the story that what they would wanted to tag the president with every day, and the investigation. But if you're on the left and you want to go after President Trump, isn't it better? You can for sure say he's a racist,
right? When
you can't prove collusion.
I see what you mean.
So the media was like, okay, now we got another thing. I do think, however, that the media that you're talking about, like the sort of the network news, that's all watched by much older people. So then the echo chamber is fomented. The thing that the business CEOs said today was that one of the things they were, especially if they were a consumer-facing business, the onslaught from social media was huge. And so they were facing campaigns against their companies because of this that you didn't necessarily see on TV. Right,
and it's hard to question the accuracy of those onslaughts. You know what I mean? 10 people can feel like 1,000 people.
And how many are real?
And how many are real? We know that from the past. Juan, am I fair in questioning the proportional value of this coverage, that it was so much for one story?
You know, I was thinking about it because to me, what was interesting looking back is that none of the networks covered the press conference. Zero. There was no live coverage of the press conference.
That's a good point.
But then subsequent to that, they all ran to make it up and say, oh my God, what a press conference. Because if you were watching live, and I think there have been news stories now about the response in the moment, including here at Fox, to, oh my God, what just happened? How could he have said that? People starting to say, I was going to cry and all that. And you hear in the immediate aftermath from Republicans. I mean, on this network, Charles Krauthammer saying it was a moral disgrace. Guy Benson saying Trump lost me in that moment. Kat Timpf saying she was about to start crying despite her makeup. You hear people saying, boy, that was something. And I think that signals to you that it's not just media or far-left people, but people were just like, wow, what just happened at Trump Tower? What did he do? So it was compelling. Now, in response to what you were saying about this trumps that or whatever, I think when you are at a point where we're talking about race wars, where you're talking about the country being so deeply divided. I was on TV today on one of our shows, outnumbered, and one of our co-hosts started crying. I mean, said, you know, I feel hard. Anything I say is going to be taken wrong or misinterpreted. I'm going to be called a racist. And you say, well, no, I just want to talk to you. It's just that kind of emotional and powerful. So I think if news media doesn't pay attention, Greg, I would be startled.
I worry, though, Kimberly, I'm not interested in comfort from a network. I just want context and clarity. And without context and clarity, I worry that it doesn't help inform the public. It actually infuriates the public and makes this kind of racial divide worse. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, it amplifies it.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible and you have to cover it. And it's important to have, peaceful and meaningful discourse about it. But, yeah, I don't want to live in a right-left paradigm, where you have to take sides and line up on this. Shouldn't we all be on the same team? People that believe in liberty and the principles that this country was founded upon. I don't want it to be a place where people just really kind of sit there and try to poke the cage on extremism on either side. Of course, you denounce absolutely what happened and what these people stand for. There is no place for it in any society, in any country, in any place whatsoever. Okay? So that's very simple. And I think trying to further explain it is where the president got in trouble. And trying to say, oh, well, there was violence as well from the other side. They were wrong, too. It's not even necessary to go there. Just call it out for what it is, shut it down, and try to show the country that we stand united together against people like this.
Last word, Jesse.
The media threw gasoline on the fire. Now they're complaining it's too hot. I think the percentage of the white supremacist population in this country is 0.03%. And the media treats these people like they have a lot of juice. Antifa, the media has totally sanitized these people. They don't even interview them. I haven't seen one legitimate news interview with an Antifa member, and they're all the way out there. They're everywhere. And then Black Lives Matter, they've elevated that group big time, and they're responsible for a lot of violent acts. So you have this kind of tribal collision course in Charlotte where all of these people descend onto one place in a very lackadaisical police department, and it's a powder keg. Now, Trump has been called a Nazi for a year by the media. A Nazi commits a crime. Now Trump is an accessory to the crime. That's outrageous. And for a decade, the media has pushed that white privilege needs to be eradicated. Now they say speech and certain symbols need to be eradicated. But then you have a lot of these, quote, marginalized groups that, they can do anything. They can riot, they can break the law, they can yell, and they can scream, and they can block traffic, but they're righteous because they have justice on their side. So when the media creates division, they do that to create conflict, because conflict creates results for the left. Because eventually the culture's like, you know what, I don't want to deal with it.